Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So, you're not going to believe this, but this is take 2. We just read for literally about 20 minutes, which is all good, reading Prabhupada's books, and then the camera just cut off, and it didn't save what had been recorded. So we're going to read it all again, and we're going to go even deeper this time, is what I reckon is going to happen.
All right.
Okay, so what are we reading from?
Canto 3, Chapter 6, Text 20. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text 20. The evacuating channel separately became manifest, and the director named Mitra entered into it with partial organs of evacuation. Thus, the living entities are able to pass stool and urine. Text 21. Thereafter, when the hands of the gigantic form separately became manifested, Indra, the ruler of the heavenly planets, entered into them, and thus the living entity is able to transact business for his livelihood. Text 22. Thereafter, the legs of the gigantic form separately became manifest, and the demigod named Vishnu, not the personality of Godhead, it's noted here, entered with partial movement. This helps the living entity move to his destination.
So it makes things a little bit complicated when you have a demigod named Vishnu as well as the Supreme Lord is called Vishnu. So interesting point.
Text 23. When the intelligence of the gigantic form separately became manifest, Brahma, the Lord of the Vedas, entered into it with the partial power of understanding, and thus an object of understanding is experienced by the living entities. Text 24. After that, the heart of the gigantic form separately manifested itself, and into it entered the moon demigod with partial mental activity. Thus, the living entity can conduct his mental speculations.
So the moon has an effect over the mind, mana and moon, and that's why what's it called? The word lunatic comes from lunar, which means the mind, which means the moon. So the moon affects the mind and gives one the ability. Here it says for mental speculations to come up with so many things like that.
Text 25. Thereafter, the materialistic ego of the gigantic form separately manifested itself, and into it entered Rudra, the controller of false ego, with his own partial activities, by which the living entity transacts his objective actions. Purport. The false ego of materialistic identity is controlled by the demigod Rudra, an incarnation of Lord Shiva. Rudra is the incarnation of the Supreme Lord who controls the mode of ignorance within material nature. The activities of the false ego are based on the objective of the body and mind. Most persons conducted by the false ego are controlled by Lord Shiva. When one reaches a finer version of ignorance, he falsely thinks of himself as the Supreme Lord. That egoistic conviction of the conditioned soul is the last snare of the illusory energy which controls the entire material world.
Interesting, this time reading through it again, and it's good. This is why reading spiritual knowledge or books on spiritual wisdom, especially Krishna consciousness and Prabhupada's books, is ever fresh, because there's always something new that you hear. So last time I think we commented that how it's called a finer version of ignorance. When you come to a finer version, then you think yourself one with the Supreme Lord. And Prabhupada says this is the last snare of Maya. This time what I picked up was interesting how, of course, we know that, here it says Rudra is the controller of false ego. And somehow is making the connection that it says most persons conducted by false ego are controlled by Lord Shiva. And when one reaches a finer version of ignorance, he falsely thinks of himself as the Supreme Lord. And I was thinking how Lord Shiva came as Sankarshan, or not as Sankarshan, as Shankaracharya, and he's the one who promoted Mayavad philosophy. So in this way, that became the finer version of ignorance, and that was more or less overseen by Lord Shiva, because of course he was directed by Krishna to do that, but at the same time, somehow I just made that connection. Interesting, huh? Okay, maybe not so interesting, never mind. Text 26. Thereafter, when his consciousness separately manifested itself, the total energy, Mahatattva, entered with his consciousness, his conscious part, his being capitalized. Thus, the living entity is able to conceive specific knowledge. Text 27. Thereafter, from the head of the gigantic form, the heavenly planets were manifested, and from his legs the earthly planets, and from his abdomen the skies separately manifested themselves. Within them the demigods and others also were manifested in terms of the modes of nature. Text 28. The demigods, qualified by the super excellent quality of the mode of goodness, are situated in the heavenly planets, whereas the human beings, because of their nature and the mode of passion, live on the earth in company with their subordinates. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita 14 through 15, it is said that those who are highly developed in the mode of goodness are promoted to the higher heavenly planetary system, and those who are overpowered by the mode of passion are situated in the middle planetary systems, the earth, and similar planets. But those who are surcharged with the mode of ignorance are degraded to the lower planetary systems or to the animal kingdom. The demigods are highly developed in the mode of goodness, and thus they are situated in the heavenly planets. Below human beings are the animals, although some of them mingle with human society, cows, horses, dogs, etc., are habituated to living under the protection of human beings.
The word Atyantikena is very significant in this verse. By development of the mode of goodness of material nature, one can become situated in the heavenly planets. But by excessive development of the modes of passion and ignorance, the human being indulges in killing the animals which are meant to be protected by mankind. Persons who indulge in unnecessary animal killing have excessively developed in the modes of passion and ignorance, and have no hope of advancing to the mode of goodness. They are destined to be degraded to lower statuses of life. The planetary systems are calculated as upper and lower in terms of the classes of living entities who live there.
Interesting. Thoughts?
Yeah, well, we were saying just 20 minutes ago. We were saying that you don't need to go to these planets, in the next life. Even in this life, we have different levels of enjoyment and suffering in terms of excessive riches and sadly excessive poverty, and just the regimes that we may live in, and the environment or country, whatever. You can be suffering in this way even now.
Yeah, so we can experience heavenly pleasures here, or we can experience passionate life, and we can experience dark suffering in this world. Something else I picked up on here was how Prabhupada is pointing out persons who indulge in unnecessary animal killing have excessively developed in the modes of passion and ignorance, and they have no hope of advancing to the mode of goodness. So it sounds like, unfortunately, it's very difficult to progress in spiritual practice if we're still inclined to eating meat, that kind of thing. And of course, as we said, that the planetary systems, this will be discussed later, but are not just necessarily about the higher, middle, and lower planets, but also all can happen right here on this one planet. We experience it. Text 29. Living entities who are associates of Rudra develop in the third mode of material nature, or ignorance. They are situated in the sky between the earthly planets and the heavenly planets. Purport. The middle portion of the sky is called Bhuvar Loka, as confirmed by both Srila Vishnu Chakravarti and Srila Jiva Goswami. In Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that those who develop in the mode of passion are situated in the middle region. Those who are situated in the mode of goodness are promoted to the regions of the demigods. Those who are situated in the mode of passion are placed in human society, and those who are situated in the mode of ignorance are placed in the society of animals or ghosts. There are no contradictions in this conclusion. Numerous living entities are distributed all over the universe in different planets and are so situated in terms of their own qualities in the modes of material nature. So just as we were just saying, that means that it doesn't mean that in the lower planetary systems everything that's in the mode of ignorance is there, and in the middle planetary systems it means here on the earthly plane everyone's in the mode of passion, because things are also in the mode of ignorance and in the mode of goodness here. And also in the higher planetary systems you have the influence of those modes as well. Just that the predominant mode in those areas is goodness, passion, and ignorance. At the same time, what was mentioned here was this word Bhuvar Loka. Prabhupada mentions in the purport, let's see, it's not actually in the verse itself, but Prabhupada says the middle portion of the sky is called Bhuvar Loka, because it's saying here that we would normally expect lower ignorance, middle passion, upper goodness. But it's saying that in between the passion and the goodness is ignorance, which is where, this the middle portion of the sky, Bhuvar Loka. And I was mentioning how this is what is spoken when you perform samskars. You chant these specific mantras, Om Bor Bhuva Swaha, and Om Bor Bhuva Swaha. And the Bor is Bhuloka, that's where we live, the earthly planet. Bhuvar Loka is the lower planetary systems, and Swa is Swargaloka, or the higher planetary system. So I never really thought of it or understood how when you say it, you say Om Bor Bhuva Swa. So it seems to imply that same thing. So somehow it's an interesting concept. We probably need to look into it much deeper. But the point is, there's no contradiction between these two.
Text 30. O chief of the Kuru dynasty, the Vedic wisdom became manifested from the mouth of the Virat, the gigantic form. Those who are inclined to this Vedic knowledge are called Brahmanas, and they are the natural teachers and spiritual masters of all the orders of society. Proper. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 13, the 4 orders of human society develop with the order of the body of the gigantic form. The bodily divisions are the mouth, arms, waist, and legs. Those who are situated in the mouth are called Brahmanas. Those who are situated in the arms are called Kshatriyas. Those who are situated in the waist are called Vaishyas. And those who are situated in the legs are called Shudras. Everyone is situated in the body of the Supreme, in his gigantic Vishvarup form. In terms of the 4 orders, therefore, no caste is to be considered degraded because of being situated on a particular part of the body. In our own bodies, we do not show any actual difference in our treatment towards the hands or legs. Each and every part of the body is important, although the mouth is the most important of the bodily parts. If other parts are cut off from the body, a man can continue his life, but if the mouth is cut off, one cannot live. Therefore, this most important part of the body of the Lord is called the sitting place of the Brahmanas, who are inclined to the Vedic wisdom. One who is not inclined to the Vedic wisdom, but to mundane affairs, cannot be called a Brahmana, even if he is born of a Brahmana family or father. To have a Brahmana father does not qualify one as a Brahmana. The main qualification of a Brahmana is to be inclined to the Vedic wisdom. The Vedas are situated on the mouth of the Lord, and therefore anyone who is inclined to the Vedic wisdom is certainly situated on the mouth of the Lord, and he is a Brahmana. This inclination towards Vedic wisdom is also not restricted to any particular caste or community. Anyone from any family and from any part of the world may become inclined to the Vedic wisdom, and that will qualify him as a real Brahmana.
Nice. So that's not the end of the purport, but there's been a lot of wonderful information spoken. Anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, it's interesting because unfortunately in this day and age the caste system is not understood. It's degraded. But so then say Shudras are
well, maybe we should say the Varna ashram system has degraded to the caste system.
Yes, it's degraded. So Shudras are looked down upon. But actually, when we take darshan, for example, the most treasured part of the Lord, we look from the bottom up. That's actually how you're supposed to take darshan of the Lord, from the lotus feet up, and they're situated at the bottom. And there's nothing lesser in the form of the Lord, whether it's his legs or his waist, his arms, or his lotus eyes or whatever, hair, whatever. So, as Prabhupada is saying, it's not that what is everyone is situated in the body of the Lord. No one is considered to be degraded. Everyone's on a particular part of the body.
Interesting. Nice point. Yeah, I appreciate also the point that anyone who develops an inclination towards Vedic wisdom, and this isn't restricted to any particular caste or community, so regardless of the gender of your body, color of the skin on your body, the age of your body, the location of your birth, nationality of your body, if you have an inclination towards Vedic wisdom, then you can be understood as a real Brahmana. So like that. Not that just because you were born in the family of a Brahmana, or as Prabhupada would say, because, I just, a two paisa thread does not make you a Brahmana, so that's not what makes us a Brahmana. The fact that we're inclined towards Vedic knowledge. What about the point about the mouth being the most important, the most, Prabhupada says,
one cannot live.
Yeah, the
mouth is cut off.
Yeah, bodily part, that's it.
Because you need to eat. And you need to talk as well.
Well, I think you can live without talking.
Well.
But yeah, it's an important part. In other places, Prabhupada says that the ear is the most important organ. That one is awakened by the ear, right? We're awakened in the morning by hearing the alarm clock going off, So we're awakened by sound vibration. So sound vibration is what wakes us up. Jeev jago, jeev jago. So this sound vibration is also hearing, shravanam, hearing transcendental sound vibration wakes us up. But here we see that, the point is that if you don't have ears, you could still live. If you don't have eyes, you could still live. If you don't have a nose, you could still live. But if you don't have a mouth,
can't eat.
You can't eat, and then
can't talk because you're too weak.
Yeah. So anyway,
And if you don't have ears, then you can't hear me talk.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do think maybe you're...
Okay, so we'll read the next paragraph. A real Brahmana is the natural teacher or spiritual master. Unless one has Vedic knowledge, one cannot become a spiritual master. The perfect knowledge of the Vedas is to know the Lord, the personality of Godhead, and that is the end of Vedic knowledge or Vedanta. One who is situated in the impersonal Brahman and has no information of the Supreme Personality of Godhead may become a Brahmana, but he cannot become a spiritual master. It is said in this Padma Purana, Satkarma nipuno vipro mantra tantra visharada avaishnavo gurur nasyad vaishnava swa pacho guru. An impersonalist can become a qualified Brahmana, but he cannot become a spiritual master unless and until he is promoted to the stage of Vaishnava, or devotee of the personality of Godhead. Lord Chaitanya, the great authority of Vedic wisdom in the modern age, stated, Kiba Vipra, Kiba Nyasi, Shudra Kenanoi, Ye Krishna Tattva Veta Se Guru Hoy. A person may be a Brahmana or a Shudra or a sannyasi, but if he happens to be well versed in the science of Krishna, then he is fit to become a spiritual master. That's Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 8.128. The qualification, then, of a spiritual master is not to be a qualified Brahmana, but to be well versed in the science of Krishna.
One who is conversant with Vedic wisdom is a Brahmana, and only a Brahmana who is a pure Vaishnava and knows all the intricacies of the science of Krishna can become a spiritual master.
Wow, that's very powerful. I'm not, that's the way that that's explained there is quite interesting. Makes sense, of course, but Any thoughts?
Well, one who knows the science of Krishna can become a spiritual master.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's already said that.
Yeah, that's what stood out for me.
Yeah. Does that mean anything more you'd like to add?
No, I think on that note.
Yeah, so it's very important that you can be a Brahmana and perform Brahminical duties and be Brahminical in nature, but to be a spiritual master. The point was that even an impersonalist can become a qualified Brahmana. Now, why is that? Because earlier the qualification to be a Brahmana was that one has an inclination towards Vedic knowledge. So an impersonalist can also have an inclination towards Vedic knowledge. Yes or no? Yes, of course. Because understanding the impersonal Brahman is also an aspect of Vedic knowledge. But to become a spiritual master or a teacher, one has to actually understand who is Krishna. And then you become a qualified teacher or spiritual master, sort of like that. Okay, so I think we should finish there.
Yes.
Before the camera crashes again.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
If anyone would like a copy of Srimad Bhagavatam set, we have some sets of Bhagavatams. We'd be happy to share them with you. And please read Srila Prabhupada's books.
Yes. Bite-sized.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Kantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai.